Okay, everybody, we're going to get going. So hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Excel Tips for Year End with Bill Jelen, Mr. Excel himself. So the webinar is also sponsored by MrExcel, and my name is Steph Bergen, and I'll be your moderator. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us, and let's get some introductions going. So of course we have Bill Jelen with us. He is the host of MrExcel.com and the author of 64 books about Microsoft Excel, including Excel Gurus Gone Wild, Pivot Table Data Crunching, and Excel Inside Out. He has made over 80 guest appearances on TV's Call for Help with Leo Laporte and was voted Guest of the Year on the Computer America radio show. He has produced over 2,400 episodes of his Excel video podcast, Learn Excel from Mr. Excel. And before founding MrExcel.com in 1998, he spent 12 years as a financial analyst for the accounting, finance, marketing, and operations departments of a publicly held company. So just a little bit of housekeeping. At the conclusion of the webinar, we have just a really quick survey just about your experience and just about your Excel experience in general. And you will receive the slides and the recording from today's webinar within the next 24 hours. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or your account manager. CPE requirements. So in order to receive your credit, you must complete at least 3 out of the 4 live poll questions today. Bill will be emailing them to you directly within 1 week. And again, if you don't reach them, please reach out. We'll make sure to get it for you. So a little bit about us. MrExcel is a certified Microsoft and Oracle partner. We have over 400 customers and 34,000 end users, and we offer nearly 30 out-of-the-box wizards and modules built specifically for organizations running on Oracle EBS and Oracle Fusion Cloud applications. But let's get to what we're really here for. So Bill, I will hand it over to you now.
All right, Steph. Hey, I'm really happy to be here today. This is our last Excel webinar of the year. So we're taking a look at some great year-end topics. Now, if you've been to one of my previous webinars, you probably already downloaded this book, but I'll put it in the chat panel in case you haven't. The Mr. Excel 2022 book. About half of what we're talking about today is from that book. So let me share my screen here. All right, so here's the plan for today. Probably about 15 topics I hope to get through, some really small things and some really big things. And you see here, I'm always interested in this column D. This is the page number in the book. And usually we have 1 or 2 things in these blue new. It says new. That means that it's not in the book. You know, it's something that came out since the book came out. And today, almost half of everything is new. So the people at Microsoft have been really busy giving us all kinds of great new things, including this first one. That just debuted about 3 weeks ago, and it's still in what they call the Insiders channel, which means that you have to sign up for the beta. It's free, of course, but a lot of companies won't let you do that. But check this out because it's coming in probably by the end of the year for most people that have Microsoft 365, and it's a great new way to do check boxes in Excel. So if you have a checklist or something like that, here on the Insert tab, they give us this big checkbox item, and you see what it does is it adds those checkboxes in. And really what's happening behind the scenes is just storing the words true and false, but instead of showing true and false, it's actually putting a little checkbox there, which is just infinitely better. So here I have a year-end accounting checklist of all the things that have to happen. I will go to Insert, add the checkbox in, and you can even put little formulas in here. So like item 1, sorry, let me make it bigger. Item 1, it will be complete if rows 4 and 5 are true. So I can do an equal and function here. And that will be false until someone comes along and checks both of those items. And then that automatically updates to true. So all kinds of great little fun things you can do. You can even filter and so on, right? So that's our first little tip there that's just useful for everything, whether it's a year-end accounting checklist or just any kind of a checklist. Really nice, easy feature for Microsoft to have given us. They probably got it from Google Sheets, but let's not mention them. Sometimes, if Google Sheets put something in, then we are the beneficiary because Microsoft wants to match them. All right, so that was a quick one. our first big topic here is calculating year-end bonuses for Excel. And of course, this is going to involve the if function. I'm going to start off with a really simple if function, but then I'm going to show you some really cool things that you can do with your if functions. And we'll have a CP question just to see which of these methods you generally use. All right, so here we have a series of sales reps along the left-hand side, their year-to-date revenue, gross profit percent, and then we have to come up and figure out if they earn their yearly bonus, which is a 2% of profit if the sales are greater than quota. So I have this nice little table over here that will show me for each sales rep what their annual quota was, and I need to marry those two up. Now, in the past, we would have done the equal V lookup or maybe an index and match. So we look up the name Andy and then point to our whole table here. I'm a person who points to the table and presses F4. I know a lot of people just choose columns N and O, and that works fine. We want the second column and then false for an exact match, and we get our quota. The new way to do that, and in this case, it's actually probably a wash. XLOOKUP, same thing, we're looking up A4, we're looking up Andy in A4. The different thing here is, though, I just specify the list of sales rep names. I'll press F4 there, and then the list of quotas, F4. I don't have to put comma false at the end because XLOOKUP knows that 99% of the time we're looking for that exact match. And so it's just automatic and we get the exact same answer there. All right, so VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP, whichever you want to do there. Okay, so now we've reached the simple point of figuring out if they've earned their bonus, right? And this is the simplest if statement there is. There's only one condition we're checking for. So we'll say equal if. There's three parts to the if function, a logical test, then what to do if it's true and what to do if it's false. So we say if revenue is greater than or equal to quota, then 0.02 times the profit. Profit is in E4. And of course I could type E4, but for me, it's just faster to hit the left arrow key 1, 2, 3 times to go point to E4. You see that little, the marquee or the dancing ant, some people call it, around the cell that I've selected, and then a comma and what to do if it's false. Well, if you didn't hit that quota, then no bonus for you. And so there, it looks like Andy is up for a $25,000 bonus. That is a great bonus. Wow. I always thought I should be in sales, especially when I used to work across the hall or in the cube next to the commission guy, and I see those commission checks going. I was like, oh, wow, we're in the wrong business here. All right, so there's just the world's simplest if function. One condition, easy, but it really gives us a lot of power because, it makes a decision on each row. However, there's never been a commission plan this simple or a bonus plan this simple in the entire world. There's always extra things that we have to check for. So here, I actually appreciate this one. Someone in accounting said, hey, look, we're only going to pay the bonus if the sales are greater than equal to quota, but you have to hit a gross profit percent target. If you have gross profit percent under 50%, no bonus for you. So there's three ways to do this. And the way that 80% of people would do is they nest the if functions. So we have two conditions. They're going to use two if statements. So they're going to say, is revenue greater than or equal to quota, comma. And then we launch a brand new if function. So right here, we say if the gross profit percent is greater than or equal to 0.5, comma. All right, we've now reached the point where both conditions are true, so we can go ahead and pay that bonus, which is 0.02 times profit. All right, and now that we've nested functions, we have to go and finish each of the functions. So value of false there, and you'll notice that last parenthesis is red. That means that it matches to that parenthesis there. There's, I think, 7 different colors. So depending on how many levels of parentheses you have, you'll see those colors change. And then comma 0 like that. All right, so that's probably the most popular way to solve this with the nested if. However, it starts to get really ugly if there's 3 or 4 or 30 conditions because the formula just gets longer and longer and longer. Right, and what I've seen is people start the if function just like we just did, but instead of putting just one condition, they'll put all of the conditions inside another function called the AND function. AND, I love the AND function. So inside of the AND function, we're going to put all of the conditions. So revenue greater than or equal to quota, comma, and gross profit percent greater than or equal to 0.5. All right, if there were more conditions, you can put up to 254 conditions in there. If everything inside the and is true, then the and returns true, and we can pay that bonus of 0.02 times profit in E4. 0.02 times E4, otherwise 0. All right, so this second formula using the and function actually becomes a little bit simpler, especially when you start getting 3, 4, 5, or 30 conditions. All right, but my absolute favorite trick of all time, I was doing a live seminar in Philadelphia, and I've only had one person ever give me this formula. And I thought it was pretty clever, right? What they do is they actually just calculate the bonus for everybody. So 0.02 times profit, 0.02 times profit, right? And then what they do is they take that answer and they multiply it by each condition. All right, this is pretty cool what's happening here. So we're going to say, is revenue greater than or equal to quota? Close the paren, and then multiply again, is gross profit percent greater than or equal to 0.5, right? And what happens here, so revenue is greater than quota in this case, so that evaluates to true. But the gross profit percent is less than 0.5, so this evaluates to false. And the important thing here is the asterisks, because the asterisks force Excel to multiply everything out. And so we get a bonus here. Actually, if I wanted to see what that bonus is, this is pretty cool. This is kind of new. I'm just going to select it, and a little tooltip. I hope that tooltip shows up on your screen. Really small. It shows me that the bonus in play here is $25,711.40. I love that new feature. Used to be you'd have to press F9 to see that. Now it just happens automatically. So this C4 greater than G4 evaluates to true. All right, but when we multiply those two things together, the true has to change to a 1. And so the bonus is still there. But when we multiply the whole thing, that second condition is false, and the false is 0. And of course, anything times 0 becomes 0. So there's 3 different ways to solve that function there. The nested if, the using an and inside of the if, or this what I call the Boolean logic. That's a word from long ago that I thought I would never have to use after college. The Boolean logic. All right, now, as Steph said, we have 4 CPE questions today. We just want to see that you're there and paying attention. So, Stephanie, if we can put up that first CPE question.
Yeah. Ooh, give me 1 second.
All right.
Oh, what happened? I need to relaunch it. Give me 1 second.
Sure,
Because
yeah.
we did it in the practice.
There we are. That's great. Okay, so question number 1. Which is your favorite method for this bonus calculation we just did? A, nesting the if functions. B, using if with and. C, this Boolean multiplication trick. Or D, just grabbing a calculator and calculating it all out. Oh, this is great. Look at this. All these people using the and function. That's a beautiful one. And the Boolean multiplication trick is another great one.
I'll give you guys a few more seconds. You're so close to almost everyone. Yeah, make sure you need at least 3.
Right.
All right, any more? There's still a couple. Okay. I'm going to share the results.
Okay. All right, there we are. So nesting if functions is about 16% of the people. A lot of, actually almost 50% using if with and. That's great to hear. And is a great trick. And then the Boolean multiplication trick, about a third of us. All right, and whoever used the calculator, that's hilarious. But we'll let you go, I guess. I hope. I don't know. All right, great. Let's see. Cool. So that's our great improvement to the if function. Here's another one where we have 2 conditions and only one of them has to be true. So sales greater than quota, or if you hit this magical 15,000 quantity, then you qualify for the bonus. And so same thing that we did there with the and function, but another function called or. And so if revenue is greater than or equal to quota, or the quantity over in B4 is greater than or equal to 15,000, close the or function, then we can go ahead and pay the bonus. 2% of profit, otherwise 0. All right, so there's and or. There's also a function called not, NOT, And in theory, between using and or not, you should be able to do just about any commission plan that anyone ever comes up with, we would hope. Okay, so now here's one we're going to have to combine. We're going to have to combine not just if statements, but also VLOOKUP, because what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what their percentage to quota is. And then based on that percentage to quota over here, I built a nice little lookup table that shows if you get to 100%, then you're getting 10% of the profit over quota. At 105%, you get 12%. So if you beat the quota by 5%, that bonus increases to 12. If you beat it by 20%, it increases to 15%. And if you beat it by 125%, you're getting a fifth of the excess profit over quota. So we have to do this extra lookup. And in this case, I'm going to do the VLOOKUP because it has that fourth option called the range lookup. And that's also in XLOOKUP. But I really like it in VLOOKUP because I get to put that comma true at the end, and it just reminds me of what's going on. Oh, no, the book. Okay, this is great. Thanks for letting me know that the today's book is not there. I will put that back in Dropbox and get Steph to link. And
Yeah,
Steph, you
all
can send
good.
it,
We'll
send it out
email
tomorrow.
it to you too. Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. All right. Thanks for letting us know. All right. So we're looking up 105% in this table, F4, comma, 2, comma, true. All right. Now check this out. The 105% happens to be exactly there, but that number is not really exactly 105%. If we would put a comma false, it's just, going to say that it can't be found. But this comma true version of VLOOKUP is looking for the value that is equal to 105% or just less. All right. So let's see what we get there. We get the 10% bonus. So even though it shows 105%, they didn't qualify for the 12% because if I show extra decimal places, we're really at only 104.61. All right, so nice little formula there that figures out how much extra commission their extra bonus they're going to get. And then we calculate their amount over quota, so revenue minus quota, like that. And then the bonus is going to be equal that 10% times the amount over quota. So 11,519. Wow, this is already not working out as well, at least for Andy, who had a larger bonus before. Okay, now, I built some logic here, but I didn't talk about, or I didn't think about what's going to happen if someone doesn't meet the bonus, right? So then their amount over quota is actually negative, and this is not going to be popular. Like, hey, yeah, not just base pay for you, but we're taking something away. So we need to make sure that this is never zero, or is never less than zero. And my method for this, I know it's very tempting to say equal if this is less than zero, then zero. Otherwise, the calculation that we came up with. But I have this great trick that I learned long ago in one of my seminars, and it's just an awesome little trick. If we want to make sure that this amount is never negative, instead of using an if function, I'm going to use the max. I'm going to take the max of zero in whatever the calculation is. So the max of zero in that calculation. We'll leave the calculation alone if it's positive, but anytime we get a negative number there, it just goes away. All right, so several different examples there. I think the really important one is a couple of different alternatives of using and when you have multiple conditions, or this Boolean logic trick if you have multiple conditions. And I'm also going to revisit this one later. There's a great new tool that just came out from Microsoft in Cambridge, England, that will allow us to simplify this formula, but we'll get to that one after a bit. So we'll close this and come back here and check off calculating year-end bonuses in Excel. All right, KPIs, key performance indicators. It's funny, there's two different ways that you can do KPIs in Excel, and one of them is in a pivot table, but not just a regular pivot table. It's a power pivot table, and it's incredibly complicated. It's not in that book, I'll tell you that. And it's something that I've never actually done. Like when I was working in accounting, I never went the power pivot method. I did a couple this week just to try it out, and I looked at that and said, why would I go to any of this hassle when we can just do this with the awesome tools that they gave us all the way back in Excel 2007 here under conditional formatting called icon sets, right? So I'm going to show you some cool different icon set opportunities. And I think if you need to show KPIs in a dashboard or in a spreadsheet, this is the icon sets is really just the best way to go. All right, so I have a series of numbers here, and I want to add icons to these. Might be like a percentage score on a test or something like that. Conditional formatting, icon sets, and they have 23 different options. The kind of important thing to think about is there's options that have just 3 icons, some that have 4, like these arrows have 4, the cell phone power bars have 4, and then a few that have 5, the 5 arrows, the 5 cell phone power bars, and these things that remind me of consumer report symbols from the 1970s have 5. When this first debuted, not in Excel, but it was an add-in, I remember the traffic lights were the big thing, the green, yellow, and red. But what we've learned is this is a horrible thing from an accessibility point of view, because the green, yellow, and red, for someone who's colorblind, they can't tell the difference between the green and the red. So you never want to choose just green, yellow, red. You want to choose the 3 different shapes at a minimum. So it's not just color that's differentiating it, but the shapes as well. All right, so just very easy to very quickly add KPIs. And Excel automatically figures out, it does this little dance. I'm embarrassed to know that I know exactly how the dance works. They take the series of numbers, they look at the minimum value and the maximum value. In this case, the minimum value I can see down here in the status bar is 80. The maximum value is 100. That's a 20-point gap, and they break it in thirds. So about 86.67 is when they switch from the green check mark, or the red X, to the green check mark. And then up between 93 and 94 is where it changes, right? So those defaults work great unless you have one person, and this always happens. There's some anomaly, like, let's take Eddie. Eddie did horribly on the test. Who knows? He got called out halfway through. He had to go fight a fire, and instead of getting an 80, Eddie gets a 30. Now just take a look at all of those various icons. And when I type in 30 and press enter, Excel redoes that calculation. And now the gap is from 30 to 100, which is a 70-point gap. And all of the people who were getting red X's and yellow exclamation points before have now earned green check marks in comparison to Eddie, right? Now we have control over this. If we go into conditional formatting and then manage rules, this great little dialog box here that allows me to set when the green check marks are shown, the yellow exclamation points and the red X's. And right now it's at 67% and 33%. And again, that's the percentage of that range. So I like to take both of these and change them to a number. And I'm going to say, okay, the green check mark is only greater than or equal to 95. The yellow exclamation point is everyone above 88. And then everyone below that gets the red X. So by you taking control, you can make sure that one anomaly doesn't cause everyone else to all of a sudden get the highest KPI. In that dialog box, there's something that I could never understand the difference between this. They have something called percent and percentile. And to me, they sound exactly the same. I'm going to show you the difference between that. And also one that I've never used, but could be cool, is a formula. So maybe you could have a formula to calculate within 1 standard deviation of the mean or some crazy thing like that, right? So there's a lot of different options here, even though most of us just choose the box and get the KPI and we're good to go. All right, so here's my attempt to try and show you percent and percentile. If the numbers are evenly distributed from 1 to 100, they're going to come out exactly the same. But in this case, the numbers are really mostly between 1 and 24. That's where almost everything falls. And then we have a few outliers who scored really high, up to 99. See, and percent will cause almost everybody to get the lowest. Those few outliers will kind of skew things, and it ends up wrong. If you want to make sure that 1/3 of the people get the highest KPI, 1/3 get the middle, and 1/3 get the lowest, then you just change that to 33 and 67 instead of percent. Change it to percentile. All right, all of that, it's just building up to this one. This is one of my favorite uses of these conditional formattings, and it's to show whether we're up or down? Were the numbers this year up or down from last year? And so what I have here is I have sales from this year, and then I'm hiding down here outside of the print range sales from last year. And I want to show for each of these numbers up here, are we over or below where we were last year? And Microsoft in Excel 2010, this feature debuted in Excel 2007, but in Excel 2010, they added 3 icon sets to this list and went from 20 to 23. And one of the ones they added is this one here with the green up arrow, the yellow flat, which would be used for 0, and the red down arrow, right? What's really funny, I don't know if the tooltips are coming through. Sometimes Zoom doesn't show the tooltips. The tooltip here says the name of this icon set is 3 triangles. I'm like, geez, if they can't even figure this out, this is like Sesame Street level thing here. That's 2 triangles and a rectangle. All right, but the person at Microsoft just decided to call it 3 triangles for whatever reason. Okay, here's how we make this work. If I would just try and apply it up here, it's not smart enough to know that it's supposed to compare to below, and it's just going to be a disaster. So icon sets, the 3 triangles, it's just terrible. So I'm going to undo that. What we have to do is create some helper cells, and those helper cells are going to take the current value, this year's value minus last year's value. See, and that shows that they're up 1,666 in that division. I'm going to copy it across and then double click to copy that down. Looks like Anaheim is down overall. A lot of stores are up, but for whatever reason, Anaheim, and I shouldn't get too excited about this because this is fake data, right? So let's not worry about it. I find myself saying, oh, what happened to Anaheim? And then 10 minutes later, I'll say, oh, wait, no, this is all created with RAM between. Never mind. Okay, so now down here, what we've done is we've created something where the min is minus 7,605 and the max is 51,084. And so that normal default calculation is not going to fare well because it's going to break somewhere around 20,000 is going to be the green up, and everything below 20,000 is going to be the red down. So I love a function here that hardly anyone ever uses. It's called the sine function, but not the trigonometry thing, not sine, cosine, not that. SIGN. The sine function looks at the number, and if the number is positive, it changes it to a 1. If the number is negative, it changes it to a -1. And we don't have anything flat here, but if there was something flat, it would get a 0, right? And now this works perfectly. Conditional formatting, icon sets, right? And it's very simple. If the number's up, it's up. If the number's negative, it's down. And we just need to take these triangles, and get them up here in our original report. All right, a couple of great tricks here. And by the way, I know I'm going through things really fast. This trick is in the book. Definitely in the book, but if you need to come back, they'll have a recording of this. I'm going to manage this rule and use an obscure little setting called show the icon only. Click OK. So now down here at the bottom, I have those green and red icons where they should be. Like they're all spaced out correctly. And I'm going to copy those. And then this is amazing. I'm going to come up here. Back in the day, if you've been around for a long time, you might remember this as the old camera tool. They renamed the camera tool under paste something called a linked picture. And it takes that picture, a live picture of what's down below, and it overlays it over our numbers up at the top. Now we just cut all this out of the print range, and we have our beautiful little report there showing whether we're up or down compared to last year. It doesn't show the magnitude of how far we're up or down, and that might be important. But if you're just trying to build a nice little dashboard that shows whether we're up or down, we can do that with the icon set, and it'll look pretty good using that trick there. Oh wait, hang on, I just caught this. I don't know if you're able to see this, but the grid lines are showing up in the printout, and that's because of the camera tool trick or the linked picture. What I need to do to make sure those grid lines don't show up is come down here to where I took the picture from, and I'm going to turn the grid lines off. And I can either do that on the View tab, turn off grid lines. Yeah, let's see how that looks. That's going to solve our problem. And then Control P to print. Yeah, get rid of those grid lines there. That's an obscure little trick. Or the other thing you could do is use a white fill down there on the bottom. Okay, let's come back. Yeah, we're doing that. All right, so there's our KPI using icon sets. All right, next one. This is on, yeah, the picture tool is a live link. If Greg, that's a great question. If the underlying data changes, it will continue to update. There were two different ways to paste here. Let me just take some numbers, Control C. There's two. This second to the last one is just pasting a static picture. That won't change. But this one is a linked picture, and it reflects the changes. The other place that this is great to use, there's all kinds of times where I have these really annoying small numbers, 12 of them, and they look like that. And then somewhere else on the same report, I need to have really wide things, right? So I have 4 columns of really wide things, and I need to get these 4 columns to appear underneath these 12 columns. And of course, you can't do that. It looks horrible. But if I take the really wide things and copy them, and then here, paste as a linked picture, right? Now I'm able to get these columns and these columns. And if something changes, change, right? It automatically gets updated. What a cool little trick. Works great in Windows and Macintosh, doesn't work in Excel Online, if that affects you. Before, you could always assume that no one was working in Excel Online, but now every once in a while you find someone who's doing it. All right, so great question. I know, right? Wow. Okay. All right, let's do a chart. Monthly and year-to-date data on a chart. I'll come here and open my file number 4. So this is actual data from a store here at the mall. I'm not going to tell you what store or what year it's from, but when we chart this data, it's very cyclical, not just high in December like you would expect, but there's all these little peaks. Like people go shopping at the mall apparently either during the week or on the weekends, depending on where the mall is, right? So there's just all this noise in the data, and then November's big. There's Black Friday, and then December, is really huge. So rather than try and do those daily dates, the first thing I'm going to do is take this and roll it up to months. And of course, my way to do that is to do a pivot table. I love pivot tables. Easy way to take data and summarize it. So we put dates down the left-hand side, and then sales. And of course, this looks exactly like the original data, but the pivot table has this great trick where we can say we want to group the field up to months. Now, I'm very careful here that this is just 1 year's worth of data. I don't have anything from 2024. If I did have 2024, I'd want to include years in the grouping, but in this case, it's just going to work perfectly like that. So we have sum of sales, and then I want to take that sales figure and show it as a year-to-date number. And pivot tables let me do that. So I just take the sales figure and add it a second time. Double click the heading here. That's a fast way to get into this field settings. Sum, count, average on the first page, but the second page is where the good ones are. We want to show this as a running total in. So I'll call this year to date. Click OK. Excuse me. All right. So there's our data. Charting a pivot table is always a hassle. It has all kinds of extra fields on it. I just hate it. So I'm probably going to copy this and paste as values. Just clean it up a little bit, and now we'll create a chart out of this data. Now this is a chart that I used to use all the time here, which show our monthly sales and our year to date, and maybe a goal. Like I said, we're working towards some sort of a goal. What is that? That's 1,484,512. So we're trying to get to 1,500,000, like that. All right. So as I build this chart, insert, and I'll start with a line chart maybe. The hassle is because the year-to-date number in the goal is so large, all of these small little monthly sales back here, they all just look exactly the same, even though there's definite variability from 89,000 to 98,000. Like we're going up and down. There's months here that are better than other months. And you might change the chart type to a column chart. But again, those little blue columns, they just look exactly the same the whole time. I had a favorite chart that I used to use here back in Excel 2003. It went away in Excel 2007, and thankfully in Excel 2013, it came back. So on the insert tab, it's not here in the list, right? It's called a combo chart. And to get to it, I'm going to go to that little diagonal arrow in the bottom right-hand corner of charts and say that I want to do a combo chart, right? And in Excel 2013, they wrote this great new thing that we can choose for each series if it belongs on the left axis or the right axis. So I'm going to take the two things that are year to date and move them to the secondary axis and maybe make them be a line. So line chart. All right, so there's my monthly numbers in a clustered column chart in blue, and then the year-to-date numbers and the goal as line charts on the secondary axis. This combo chart that they gave us, it was possible to do it before, but you had to manually format each series. It would take forever. Being able to choose each series, which chart type, and whether it belongs on the secondary axis or not, allows us to create a chart where we can actually kind of figure out what's going on. Now, you still have to do a little bit of customization. I like to show the legend at the top. So legend, show legend at the top. The chart title, that's not a very useful chart title. We'll just get rid of the chart title. And there we go. All right, so the combo chart, if you're trying to show two different orders of magnitude, like monthly sales and year-to-date sales, the combo chart is the way to go. All right, Steph, let's put up our second polling question, if you could.
Sounds good.
All right, which is the only chart type to easily create a secondary axis? A, is it called mashup chart? B, year-to-date chart? C, magnitude chart? Or D, combo chart? Combo chart.
I'll give you guys a few more seconds. All right, last call. Make sure you put it in. All right.
Okay. Oh, I've lost it. Shoot, where's it?
Do you see it?
There it is. Okay, so mashup chart, 0%. Year-to-date chart, 8%, or 11%, sorry. Magnitude chart, 3%. And combo chart, that's the right answer, 86%. Great job there. All right. Awesome. Now, here, we're going to get to this great new tool that came from Excel Labs. Excel is made in Redmond, Washington. There's a great team of people there. I know a lot of those people. But about 10 years ago, a new division opened up at Microsoft in Cambridge, England. Right? Those guys are really smart. It's like a garage project. And they have the authority to add things to Excel that aren't officially part of Excel, right? But they've added 3 amazing things. And they've released it all as an add-in called Excel Labs. And I'm going to show you a few of those things. It's really frustrating. On my Excel, add-ins is found on the Home tab. Everyone else has it on the Insert tab, right here to the left of charts was add-ins. They're moving it for whatever reason to the Home tab. So wherever you have it, you want to click on add-ins and search for the word Excel Labs, and it'll come up. You just say install, and then you'll get this nice little icon out here on the far right-hand side of the Home tab with Excel Labs. Right now, they have 3 different things. The advanced formula environment, which is a better formula editor than what we have. Something that will call essentially ChatGPT right from Excel, which is great if you have to call it 1,000 times. And a brand new thing called the Python editor. Now, for you to use Python, you have to be on the beta channel right now. And while it's in preview, the only way to get to it is through the beta channel. For me, I first bought my first Python book 10 years ago, almost to the day of when this came out earlier this summer in July. I actually went back because I remember buying the book, and I went to Amazon, and it was within 2 days of when I bought that book. And I'm going to tell you, I started through that book. I skimmed through the table of contents. I'm like, this is really cool, but I couldn't figure out how to configure it. I mean, it's 16 steps. And the first one says open a command line prompt at the advanced level. It was just beyond me. What they've done is they've given us an amazing thing where we can now run Python right in Excel. I'm going to open this workbook here. All right. And there's a lot of stuff going on here. I have every transaction from the last 20 years. I've taken those transactions and categorized them into 4 subgroups. So, if you bought this product, it's definitely a Power Query book or it's a VBA book. But like these, it's kind of a mix. It might be 15% Power Query. Did some math and then checked out this formula bar here. There is Python running right in Excel, and it's doing something that was in that book that I bought 10 years ago called K-means clustering. And what it does is it takes all of your customers, and for your marketing department, there's customers who are, more inclined to buy certain products than other products, and it assigns them all to a cluster like this. And today, thanks to a Cloudflare outage, I'm not getting the charts. I should get nice little charts right there. But this is all Python running in Excel with absolutely no setup required, which is the beautiful thing. If you just want to point to an Excel spreadsheet, here's what we do. So we equal PY, tab, and now I'm in the Python editor, and my data frame is equal to this data right here, right? And let's see, it's enter, and then df.describe, I think is control enter to finish, and it goes out and will, no. It's still actually working. Yeah, so this is really cool. Python is completely new to me. Something that I was interested in doing. Oh, we're going to crash Excel. There we are. Something that I was trying to do 10 years ago, and now, it's finally going to at least be in Excel. It's kind of a great marriage between our two favorite data tools there. Okay, good. So I'm looking at the time. We have 20 minutes left. Let's take a look at this budget versus actual with Power Pivot. Power Pivot is a new way of creating. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, I'm going to close Excel. Close Excel. Close Excel. And we'll open again. That was a horrible demonstration of Python. Anyone who's watching will never try it now because of the crash there. All right, good. And then we'll open this. Okay, so budget versus actual. Budgets, of course, we're probably in budget process for right next year, are done at a top level. At the fictional company I have here, I have 54 rows of top level budget. And the actuals then happen, we get an invoice register. And so that data is coming in, hundreds or thousands of rows, depending on how often you invoice. And I want to compare budget and actual in this case, which there's no VLOOKUP that's ever going to be able to do that. But using the data model and Power Pivot, this is possible, right? In order to make this work, we have our small file on the left and the big file on the right. And what I had to do was I had to create these 3 little tables that allow both the blue and the purple table to talk to each other. So it's just a unique list of products, a unique list of regions, and then for each of the dates that are in either table, what month they belong to. All right, so here on the data tab, actually, I'm going to go to the Power Pivot tab. You should have a Power Pivot tab at this point. I'm going to add all 5 of these to the data model. For each one, I just come back and choose the next one, add the data model. Add the data model. Be nice if there was a add all 5 of these to the data model. And the last one. All right, so what we have now, this is the Power Pivot window, and all 5 tables are here. And they have this beautiful diagram view. It's possible to do this straight on the Excel data tab, but it's so much easier to do it here. It feels a lot like Microsoft Access, if you remember that. I used to use Access when I would get beyond 65,000 rows in Excel. And we just say, hey, the budget table links to these products, and the actuals table links to the same products. Same thing here, the region table from both sides, and the calendar table, we're using dates from both sides. Like that. All right, and there I've just essentially built what they call a data model And now I can build a pivot table that comes from all 5 of these with no problem at all. Here's kind of the thing about it. The numbers need to come from the left or right table. So if I want total revenue or the budget, that's coming from the left or right tables. But everything else is going to come from one of these other lookup tables. So I could put regions down the side, East, Central, and West. I can put the year or the month across the top. I can't even reorganize those, right? So there's revenue and budget. So that's right there doing some amazing math. Taking a small table that's at the top level and a other table at the bottom level and working through it. This exact example is in the book, right? So if you have a similar function, just create those joiner tables. This is using budget versus actual with Power Pivot. Starts on page 112 of the book. All right, Steph, let's put up our third CPE question.
Yeah.
Cool. What tool helps compare bottom-up actuals to top-down budget? Is it A, slicer table, B, a masher, C, a dicer, or D, a joiner table? People were answering that one. I have a great story about this next this next item. The amazing thing with Microsoft 365 is they're putting out new stuff all the time. And as I started to build my example for the next this next topic about how to clean up linked workbooks at the end of the year, I realized that something had changed dramatically. And I went to my other friends, the people who write about Excel. I said, hey, has anyone seen this? Like, when did this happen? Microsoft has never announced it, but it's a huge change from what we have in the past. All right, let's see there how we're doing on the poll.
Can you see the results?
Yep, great. Okay, so joiner table, that's right, 87%. Good job there. Okay, so what I have here my Supermaster workbook for 2023, and this workbook is going out and grabbing data from 3 different workbooks, and those workbooks are all the 2023 workbooks. People have developed these at their work, and it's just crazy how big they get, right? It was started out as something simple. Hey, we're going to take numbers from this workbook and bring it over here. And then they had a second workbook. And in real life, it's not just 3 workbooks, it's 10 or 20 workbooks. And then we get to the point where we want to save everything for the next year. And that's where things become kind of crazy. So here on the data tab, this thing called workbook links, it used to open up this old dialog box, but now it opens up this brand new cool task pane on the right-hand side. For each of the workbooks, we have options here to open the workbook, copy the link, or change the source, right? So if we now have 2024 versions of this, we can change the source. But I don't even think that's the best way to go. Even though they took a lot of effort to re-engineer this task pane, what I do is I make sure to open this workbook, and if there's enough memory, just open all 3 workbooks. So I'm going to choose the 3 workbooks that are linked. I'm going to drag them over here. Okay, so now that I'm in this magical mode where the summary workbook and all 3 of the source workbooks are open, and I'm just going to simply come here and do File, Save As. With it has to have everything open. So asset value 2024, and then we'll switch, and we'll save this one with the 2024 name, and then switch to the income data, save this one with a 2024 name. All right, and then the most important part, like, the real risk here is that you now get a phone call and forget what you were doing. You need to come back to this workbook, last year's workbook, to the 2023 workbook, and you'll see that all of my formulas have updated here. This is a great little thing called formula text, shows me the formula next to the cell that has the formula. So now that I've had all 3 workbooks open and save as each of the 3, it becomes super easy here just to do File, Save As, and save this with a 2024 like that. And it's done. I don't have to come in here, change links, change source, or anything like that. It just works. But check out that great workbook links panel. If we come back and have another webinar next year, the 2024 version of this book will be updated to talk about this new panel that literally I just discovered yesterday. And friends of mine confirmed that it happened sometime over the summer without Microsoft saying anything about it. So just kind of crazy how that works. All right, so that's cleaning a linked workbook for next year. Let's talk about this great tool here for the year-end summary worksheets. And I love this kind of a formula. I'm going to show you great ways to do it. It is file number 10. Here we are, this one. Okay, so what I have is I have a report for each month. You can see the tabs across the bottom, May, June, July, August. And I want to create a summary report of all of these. Now, in order for this to work, these are stores that we operate. If a store got added in the middle, like July, we opened a new store, I'd have to go back and add that store to all of the spots in the previous months. I'm going to take the December worksheet and control drag it. That makes a perfect copy of that worksheet. I'll call it summary. And what we have to do here is we have to go add up cell B5 on all the other 12 sheets. And I've done this in the past. I've done something crazy like this where I go click on January and cell B4 plus, and then I click on February and cell B4 plus, and it's a hassle to go point to the 12 sheets. There's a much faster way to go. It's called a spearing formula or a 3D reference. So equals sum, and we go from January. Check this out. I click on January, but I don't touch any cells. I shift click on December, and up here it's built this January : December before the exclamation point. This is where the sheet name goes. So we're getting everything from January to December, and I want cell. I'll just click on it, B5. Should have done that. B5. Oh, hang on. Equals sum. Click on January. Shift click on December, and then click on B5. Yeah, there we are. That's what I needed. Close paren, and that formula just spears right through and grabs the all 12 sheets. Now, provided you you don't add a new sheet to the right of summary or something like that, or you don't add a sheet in here that doesn't belong, then this is a great way to go. All right, so that's called either a 3D reference or a spearing reference. Steph, let's put up that fourth poll question.
That sounds good.
All right, so what do you call a formula that adds up 52 weekly spreadsheets? Is it A, a spearing formula, B, a 3D formula, C, a cross sheet formula, or D, a multi-sheet formula?
Give you 5 more seconds.
All right.
Let's see.
Okay, great. Good. So a spearing formula or 3D formula, either one of those works. I guess you could really call it any of these, to be honest, but I always call it 3D or spearing. Good there. All right, we have about 7 minutes left. There are some just wild things here. I want to show you these Excel Labs things that we have. So I'm going to combine Excel Labs. Here we are. Excel Labs wrote something that was going to be an easier formula bar. And one of the things with anything from Excel Labs is currently only running on Windows. It's not in a Mac yet. Will probably never be in Excel Online. So we have this little tool here. And if I had a formula like this bonus formula out here, or that provisional bonus formula, we can see it. And in this case, it's a really simple formula. But what I love here is they buried something that, in my opinion, should win the Nobel Prize for Excel features. Now, the Nobel Committee doesn't give a prize for Excel features, but if they did, this would be the most amazing thing. I have my provisional bonus and my bonus, and a whole series of calculations here that are making this happen. So I'm going to select these cells from A4 to L4. And the cells in red are the cells that actually matter, the revenue and the quota. And this is called add function from grid. And they say, all right, here's the series of formulas that we want to replicate. Which are the parameter cells? And that is cell C4, comma, and then cell G4. And the output cell is the bonus in L4. Right? And when I click preview, they take all of the logic that's in all of those columns and they create a brand new Lambda function. Lambdas were introduced 2 years ago. It's a really horrible name for a pretty cool feature that is way above everybody's head. Like I can't find anyone who actually just writes Lambdas in real life, unless you're on the Excel World Championship stage or something like that. So for me, they were cool, but I'm never going to write one myself. But now Excel Labs is creating a Lambda for me. And I'm going to add this to the workbook. All right. And I'll check this out. Thanks to Excel Labs, I can just come out here and my bonus logic, all of the logic that's in that spreadsheet is now just simply called equal bonus. And says, what's the revenue? What's the quota? And it replaces all of those sub formulas with one single formula that does everything it needs. It's actually stored that logic here in the name manager. So there's the bonus. There's all of the information. No one knows that this is here. I wrote to the guys at Excel Labs and said, this is just insane. It takes these super complicated spreadsheets and it simplifies it so much. Now, some people are going to say, well, wait, it hides the logic, and from an audit point of view, the auditors are going to hate this. Yeah, I get that. But, if you don't have to worry about the auditors, then it's a great way to go. All right. I think the last seminar I talked about this on the home tab, this thing out here called Analyze Data, which has artificial intelligence built in. But ever since the first of the year, people were talking about ChatGPT a lot. And, I have mixed feelings about it. ChatGPT gives me the wrong answers a lot. But sometimes if it's just a silly little thing, ChatGPT is fine. And so the guys at Excel Labs, in their Excel Labs tool, have given us something that allows us to call OpenAI or ChatGPT right here from Excel. And I had a situation. I have a lot of videos on YouTube, 2,300 videos on YouTube with really stupid titles. And, I thought it was cute when I put up those stupid titles, but no one can ever find anything. And so I needed ChatGPT to write better titles for me. And so now I came here to Excel using this Excel Labs, and it's called labs.generative AI, and you give it the prompt, right? So I'm going to say, write a holiday song about the joys of Excel in the style of F4. Ampersand country music. And I press enter, and it sends that prompt out to ChatGPT, and it'll take a couple of minutes here unless ChatGPT is still down. It was down for a while this morning because of that Cloudflare problem. But it's going to come back with a song in country music style about the joys of, there we are. So driving down this, I'm not going to sing it, right? But, talking about this trusty pickup truck, spreadsheets by my side, right? And now that I have that formula, all I have to do is double click to copy it down, and I can get songs in Reggae Dancehall by Willie Nelson, Bruce Springsteen, Elvis Presley, Rage Against the Machine. And actually here, I let that all happen this morning. I just saw Rage Against the Machine at the Rock Hall induction this week. I wasn't aware of them. They're angry, obviously. But even the Rage Against the Machine version is talking about the Excel revolution, spreadsheets on fire. This is a silly little thing. Like, we're not writing Excel holiday songs. But I really had a real problem, and I ran 2,000 of these. I had to go to lunch, definitely, while it worked. But it ran this through ChatGPT and improved my YouTube titles. And we're seeing like 30% more engagement since I put those new titles up there. So it like actually worked. Now, ChatGPT gives us the wrong answers a lot of the time. But just for something simple like YouTube titles, yeah, it worked out. It worked out great. Right. So those three things there in green from Excel Labs, the Python, the new ability to combine formulas, and OpenAI are just beautiful, beautiful things. All right. stuff. I want to thank More for Apps for hosting us and making this available. Don't forget the recording is there. I'll send out a Dropbox link tomorrow with everything. It's for the book, right? So
Yeah.
thanks very much.
And also, Ray has a question. How do you get Excel Labs? Is there a way?
Yeah. So on your insert tab, right about here to the left of the charts, there's something that's called Excel add-ins or the add-in store. They just recently moved it here on the home tab. So it looks like this red 4 panes of windows, I guess, is what it looks like. And then just click on add-ins and there's a search, I guess, see all. That's funny. There should be a search button here. Maybe it's at the bottom. Definitely when it was on the insert tab, there was search, and you just search for Excel space labs and it will install itself, and it even updates when they do updates. So here we go. Get add-ins there. Yeah, this is it. This is what it looked like on the insert tab. So you go to search for Excel labs. And that's the one. Add. And there's actually all kinds of great little funny things out here. You'll see people on TikTok talking about some of these. If you're spending, I don't know why you're out on TikTok, but yeah, okay. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah, but thank you everyone again for joining. Like Bill said, we will send out the recording and any associated materials. Just look out for that probably tomorrow for More for Apps. And then if you answered 3 out of the 4 poll questions, we will be able to send you your certificate for that within the next week. Don't expect that tomorrow, but you'll get it within the next week.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, seriously, feel free to reach out and I'll help you. But thank you again, guys. And thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Steph.
All right. Have a good one.